why you think the Saints are going to go the route they will go for their first two picks at 11 and 32. So if you guys don't know, Bob Rose will be teaming up with Barry Hirstius for the rest of the season, and we are reviving the Big Easy Blitz on the Saints News Network. So, Bob, welcome. And let's take it off. What are your first two picks?
My first pick at 11, and I have been on this guy since late February, early March, before he started skyrocketing up the draft boards. I have my man crush every draft, and this year it's on Reddick from Temple.
I like him too. Yeah.
The guy just looks like he could be a dynamic player for the next 10 to 12 years. I know he's not a traditional 4-3 defensive end. He's a little light for that. But you look at him on film, and he is just such an explosive player. I always hate NFL comparisons. Like this. This player's comparison is to that player. But when I make them, and I know when a lot of us make them too, it's because their style of play reminds us of so-and-so. And I'll tell you what, Reddick's style reminds me of Von Miller. And I don't think any of us can ever question for 1 second that Von Miller is one of the most disruptive defensive players in the NFL. I know that people have been saying that the Saints need a pass rusher opposite Cam Jordan. God, that's been a nightmare hole on this defense since Junior Gillette lost his psych meds and got shipped out of town. But Reddick to me can come off of that edge from a linebacker position, even in a 4-3 alignment. Because again, going back to Von Miller, in the beginning of his career, Denver's base defense was a 4-3. And Miller did just fine out of that. He didn't have a lot of pass coverage responsibilities. He was just go get the ball carrier, go get the passer. And he did that really well. If Reddick is asked to cover, the running backs coming out of the backfield or the tight end coming off of the line of scrimmage, he's inexperienced because most of his Temple career he was a hand-in-the-dirt defensive end, but he is the type of athlete that can do it. Again, you go back to the film, he has a nice fluid hip turn. He can run with just about anybody. I don't have to remind anybody here about the two Atlanta games last year. Those two running backs, Freeman and Coleman, coming out of the backfield, just tortured the Saints linebackers all game long. They were unstoppable. And we don't have anybody to match up with that. Ellerby, when he decides to cleat up and get on the field, sure. But we don't have anybody to match up with that other than that. And Reddick, once he gets some experience in the pass coverage roles that he would be occasionally asked to play, he can fill that too. This has been my guy for 2 months now. So that's where I turn my card in at 11.
Okay, and 32.
32. Assuming they don't make the deal for Malcolm Butler, and it doesn't look like they will.
Thank God.
And,
Thank God.
Yeah. They need a cornerback. They need playmakers on every level of this defense. They need a cornerback in a draft. This is a pretty good time to need a cornerback because 8-10 guys could go between the first and second rounds. I would love to see the Humphrey kid from Marlon Humphrey from Alabama drop here. I don't think he will. I think somebody's going to nab him in the mid-teens or early 20s. Barry and I were just talking earlier today. I really like the Tankersley kid out of Clemson. I think he's got good man coverage abilities. The 32 is too high to take him. I look at the corner. At 32, I go either Quincy Wilson from Florida or my pick right now would be King from Washington. He played opposite Sidney Jones on an excellent Huskies defense, and they still throw the ball a lot in the Pac-10. So he gets a lot of opportunities in coverage, and he doesn't give up a lot of touchdowns. He's not a traditional press guy, but he's big. He's a 6'3", 200-pound kid, and he can match up with all the big receivers that are going to be on the Saints schedule. Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Carolina, they all bring big receivers into that Saints secondary. And other than Dalvin Breaux, we don't really have anybody to physically match up against them, and I think King's my guy to do that. Okay,
good picks. Let's go with you, Coach. Your first pick at 11.
Well, I haven't made a mock draft because of this reason. I've been making a draft board, ranking the players from top to bottom, out of consensus of multiple draft boards. Because one thing that we know, at pick number 11, somebody is going to fall into your lap that you didn't expect to be there. Somebody's going to move up and take a quarterback, and there is not a single quarterback in this draft that grade-wise deserves to be in the top 15, much less the top 10. In fact, most of them have second-round grades, but they're quarterbacks, so they're going to be drafted higher. So I'm looking for somebody to fall in my lap at that particular position. We're pretty certain. Let's take a look at pretty much what the consensus top 10 defensive players would be. You know, Myles Garrett, Jonathan Allen, Jamal Adams, Solomon Thomas, Marshawn Lattimore, Reuben Foster, Derek Barnett would be in there, and perhaps Hassan Reddick, who's moved up. He's made a pretty meteoric rise from being a walk-on defensive back at Temple to an outside linebacker, playing at inside linebacker this year. So he's got a really good story there. But out of that particular group, who's going to fall to you? Because somebody, once again, is going to take somebody that doesn't belong there. That's why you let the board come to you. Need is somewhat important, but this team is so bad they could use players at just about every position other than perhaps defensive tackle, center, and quarterback. So, and I'm going to throw a name out there that's not, I don't think it's on anybody's except one guy's mock draft, and that is Taco Charlton. Because the Saints, from all that I hear, there's three people that the Saints really like a lot. Taco Charlton is one of them, even though his 40 time is too slow to be a dominant edge rusher. Kamara from Tennessee, and the quarterback out of the bunch that Sean Payton likes the best is Watson. Deshaun Watson likes him a whole lot, but that's not going to be an option for the Saints as well. Al Dupuy, actually, who works with us at Sports Nola in his mock draft, has Taco Charlton at number 11. But let's throw a couple of curveballs in there. I think Reuben Foster, if he's available, would certainly I think the Saints would jump on him, to tell you the truth, because they're going to look at his red flags. And there's only about 12 people in this draft, fellas, that don't have a red flag. The rest of them have some type of red flag, either through mental, psychological, through injury, through off-the-field type of situations. But Reuben Foster, it may be the one that falls to them, even though the one person in the draft that would be a Pro Bowl player, the second that he set foot on Airline Drive, if he's with the Saints, is Christian McCaffrey. He goes to the Pro Bowl almost immediately because he solidifies your running back room. He solidifies your kicking game in the return game, and LaShawn McCoy could hold up, can't he?
Yeah.
LaShawn McCoy's a pretty good player. This is the same guy. So and he comes from a professional background. If you want to see a gene pool, fellas, study his background. That his grandfather was an Olympic silver medalist in the sprints. Dad played in the NFL. His mother was an All-American soccer player at Stanford. So, but he's climbing up so far up He may not even 2 weeks ago was crazy to pick him at 11. Now he might not even be available at 11. But if Reuben Foster's there, I'm taking him. Let's throw this curveball in there. If O.J. Howard is there at 11, is there anybody that would not consider taking him with the effectiveness of tight ends and how good he is? So somebody's going to fall to the Saints. I think it could very well be Reuben Foster. At 32, if Kamara is there, I think the Saints will take him there. If he's not there, they'll take Elijah McGuire in the 6th round. But Adoree Jackson, the cornerback out of USC, because somebody in the top 20 is going to fall all the way down to 32. Now, who that's going to be. And then as a wild card in there, Budda Baker from Washington would be someone worthwhile considering.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Coach. Professor, what's your thoughts?
I'm just right in line with Bob and Dad. I just think that Dad summed it up really, really great. And in fact, he was reading my mind because it was Taco Charlton that had come up in my spirit, and Bob was reading my mind, and it was Brendan Temple and Derek Barnett. I think the Saints are going to have a very difficult decision here with the 11th pick. I think my concern has always been with the Saints. I just can't get excited about the draft because the New Orleans Saints right now, their 15 draft class is beginning to dissolve. And so here we go again. So I don't get excited about the draft anymore with the team. But honestly, if I'm the Saints, I'm going with, if I can get Reddick or Barnett, and then I'm going with Taco, so that you have a chance to hit on one of them. You've got to get pass rushes because you continually are not able to get to the quarterback. And with Tampa Bay and South Atlanta, up in their wide receivers in their game, you're gonna have to get to Jameis Winston and Matt Ryan, as well as the Carolina Panthers. So I'm going to go with two defenses, whether it be Reuben Foster, Derek Barnett, Taco, any of those guys that are available with those two picks. That's what I'm going with. I would also like to see the Saints in the 2nd round, if they could get. I still think you need to replace Brandon Cooks. One way or the other, I don't know how long Jim will last here. So I would like to see the Saints in the 2nd round get either the linebacker from LSU or White, the cornerback. If not, then Carlos from Louisiana Tech, the wide receiver from Louisiana Tech. And then later on, if they could look at the guy from the University of Louisiana Lafayette, running back Elijah later on. So those are kind of the picks that I would like to see the Saints. Definitely, I'm going with two defensive ends or outside linebackers with those two picks. Reuben Foster is left. I agree with Coach. If Reuben Foster is sitting at number 11, you're not going to have a choice because he is a top 5 pick. He's going to probably slide down because of the situations that occurred at the combos and the other thing with his testing. But I watched him the other day on ESPN and listened to the young man's heart and everything else. I don't know if the Saints are going to be able to pass up on Reuben Foster if he's sitting there at number 11. So I concur with Coach. They're going to have tough decisions with 11.
Tough decisions all the way around. I mean, you look at this draft. What do you do? And it's
you can't miss. The Saints cannot afford to miss on another draft pick in the top 15. They got rid of Malcolm Jenkins, which turned out to be a horrible mistake. The status of Kenny Vaccaro, because they have not given him. He took up his 5th year, but they extended that, so he may be on his way out. And this is the pattern with the team. I got to be honest with you guys. The pattern with the New Orleans Saints, Bob was talking about them patterns. They do not keep players past their rookie contract, except for Cam Jordan. Remember, they'll let Mark Ingram go and touch the agency. This pattern has to stop because you constantly revolving your team with all of these changes. They cannot afford to miss and do another Cedric Ellis. They can't afford with another Patrick Robinson. They cannot afford to keep missing on these draft picks. So I'm at number 11, and it doesn't look like you're going to trade that 32nd pick. Me personally, I'm going with the highest graded and best graded